Guess who's back?
All right, so before we get stuck into the build, I just wanted to touch on the van that we chose, how we got there, and a bit of our previous van life experience, if you will, that sort of led us to this van. So previously we had a Hyundai iLoad, which was fitted out, just had a queen bed and some drawers and storage areas. We just carried our camping equipment on that. Also had an awning. It was really good for weekend trips, but we were sort of limited to, I guess, shorter trips and campgrounds and things that had facilities like toilets and showers. The van did have an awning as well, and for our mountain bikes, we had those on the back on a swing away rack, which works well, but I guess when you've invested some money in some decent mountain bikes, it's not ideal to have them out in the weather or out where people can pinch them. Also, earlier this year, we did a 2-week trip in Tassie where we hired a Toyota Hiace long wheelbase high top. So that was fitted out with a bed, couch that you change the bed into a couch, had room to stand in, cold running water, gas cooktop, and a pretty small fridge.
So it gave us the taste of the good life, because with the iLoad we don't have any luxuries. A queen bed is a luxury, but other than that, we don't have any solar or batteries or anything like that. So yeah, I was like, this is cool.
Yeah, I think that was a real turning point for us, was sitting in the back of the van at Derby at a free camp. It's just mountain bike mecca of Australia, really. And we're this is just awesome. We want to do more of this.
And the echidna.
Yeah, there was an echidna literally right there. There's running water. You can
go for a swim in after a big ride.
Yeah, swim in, even though it was very cold. But
yeah,
that sort of was the turning point to doing this build, and also fed into what we wanted in a van. So yeah, when we started looking, we're what's important to us. So we wanted to be able to stand up. We wanted a shower and toilet, because that really opens up a lot of off-grid free camp opportunities. And we wanted, fridge, power, a little kitchenette and things. The other thing was actually being able to put the bikes in the van. So we're going to probably have some compromises in doing that. So yeah, the intent of the build will be to build the bikes in under the bed so that we can, keep them out of the weather and out of sight, and a bit more security there. Yeah, so when we're looking for a van, I guess we weren't looking for this van. So this is a 518 Sprinter long wheelbase. It's the dual rear wheel van, 4.5 ton gross vehicle mass, GVM.
She's a big girl.
She's very big, but yeah, we weren't looking for this exact van, I guess, specifically, but you probably did more of the van looking.
Yeah, I was on car sales every night, just checking out what vans would work with the dimensions, because I feel like we knew we wanted something we could stand up in. So I'm short, so I can stand up in a car at this point. But for you, you needed to, how tall are you? 5'11", 6 foot. So we need something that was 2 meters high. So I think this is 1.9.
Yeah, 1.98.
So 1.98. And majority of vans width-wise are about 1.7. And then load length, that's the thing that I was really focusing on, was, is it over or 4 meters or over? Because a lot of the long wheelbases, like the Renaults, they say they're long wheelbase, but they're 3.7 meters, internal load length. So really on car sales, if you're looking for a particular width and height and whatnot, jump into car sales and you can go through all of the different vans and look at their load length and really see what's going to work for you. Because for us, there was no way we were going to go 3.7. We needed, even though it's
it's only this much, but it makes, when you're trying to fit a lot of stuff in 30 to 60 centimeters, makes a massive difference.
Yeah. So that's the thing that I ended up hyper fixating on, was just every night in there checking and seeing what was popping up. And we ended up looking at quite a few vans. The first van we went and looked at was the
Transit.
Yeah, the Ford Transit, which
it was good to drive, quite punchy and sort of had a lot of torque, so it got up and sort of went. It was a manual. It was in fairly rough condition, I guess, and it was the first one we looked at.
Yeah, so we were kind of like, oh, this is an option. And at the time, it was quite expensive in our eyes for what it was. But I mean, to be honest, when we bought, it was peak kind of van time, so it was always going to be a little bit expensive. But we were like, oh, there's quite a bit of rust, and it's, yeah, just didn't feel right. So we decided to put that on pause. Although, even though the week or two after, we're like, should we have gotten this van? Because no other vans are coming up, and like that kind of mindset. But then what did we look at next?
I think then we might have even looked at this one next. And then we kind of just ummed and ahed about it, and we weren't 100%.
Also, once again,
fairly pricey. But so we weren't too sure on that, and then we looked also at a crafter, which was awful to drive. I don't know if we just got a dud that we were testing, but yeah, it was in very rough condition, so we can't really judge on what it was actually like to drive, because they said it needed like thousands of dollars worth of all this work that needed doing as well.
And even though it was a little bit cheaper, the work that we would have, like the money we would have had to pay to get it up to scratch would have been the same as what we were looking at anyway. So I drove like an hour to go and see that one after work. I had to leave work a little bit earlier. 2 minutes, we were like, no, this is... And after, I was just like, I shouldn't have come here. But never regret it, because it was really good to see what that was like. And then we went and saw a Renault Master, which was advertised as an extra long wheelbase,
but it wasn't. So that's one thing to be aware of is, I don't know if you take a tape measure or just be aware of, you can kind of tell from the photos, but people don't always know what they're listing, and they don't know. There's so many different variants of like vans that, like, it was listed as an extra long wheelbase, but I think it was the long wheelbase, which is the 3.7 instead of like the 4.3 meter long.
So that was fine. It was good to see what that drove like.
It also wasn't that nice to drive either.
I think we got a little bit spoiled with the driving the Sprinter the second time, and because this, I don't know, it just drives. Well, actually, I haven't driven it yet.
We'll have to get you in there.
I don't know. I just But you, from what you've said, drives really nicely.
And as co-pilot,
it feels
co-driver to the plane. But no, this drove well, and it kind of ticked all the boxes. It had full service history, so it was an old Queensland Police vehicle, so it had all the logbooks and everything like that was fully done, and so we knew it had been like looked after. There's a few bits of rust and things on the roof. I'd say when you're looking, look at the car sales specs. They've got like a table there which details like the load length, the height, the GVM, and that's another thing that I guess be mindful if you're going to put water tanks and heavy batteries and things like that. A lot of the vans are only like 3,300 or 3,500 kilo GVM, so that means when everything's fitted in and you're in it with luggage and everything, it needs to weigh in under that. So I guess we wanted the 4.5 ton GVM
to make sure
that once we've kitted everything out, when we go for weigh-in, because we want to register it as a camper van, that we'd be under the weight limit. So there's that, and also like a lot of companies put out spec sheets. So like Sprinter have spec sheets for their vans, which details every different model type, and there's all like measurements internally, the wheelbases. So that's a good thing to look at as well for getting an idea of the dimensions and I guess the sizing of the van. So the other thing we wanted to touch on was like, I guess the planning side of this, because I mean, it's probably easy to buy a van and just jump into trying to build it out, but there's really a lot of different things that you have to fit in. Like, you're working in quite a small space and you're trying to fit a lot of things in, and depending like what you're trying to fit in and things like that as well, like if you're trying to fit showers and water tanks and electrical, it gets to be quite complicated. And also like if you're going to register it as a camper van, especially if you've invested a fair bit of money into the van and then the build, that lets you sort of cover it with insurance. There's some codes and things like that you need to follow. So we'll talk a bit about the planning. So there's probably 7 steps to planning that we've undertaken. So the first was looking at the vehicle dimensions and things like that, which is what you sort of talked about and what you focused on. Then I'd say we did a fair bit of research. So Google, Facebook groups are great. Even if you don't have questions, just join up to the Van Build Facebook groups. Like I think we're in like Van Build Australia and various ones, and literally just
built campers, and
just every day just reading what other people problems they're facing, and there's heaps of people willing to support that. Instagram was sort of great. That's where we got the inspiration for our layout and things like that as well. And then YouTube as well is really good. So you're obviously in the right place, hopefully. And then we also, so I set up a master spreadsheet. So I've probably, as I said, gone into the detail a fair bit. So I've got a master spreadsheet, and that basically I've detailed in, and it's not finished, but every single part that we've needed, down from solar panels to the individual like wire connectors, how much they cost, a link to where to buy them. Everything is sort of in there. I've also done all like our power calcs for how much power we're going to use on a typical day, and then from that, what our solar demands need and our battery storage. So there's a fair bit in that, and it's good to have, because when we go to buy stuff, I just click the link and then basically buy it, and I can put in the price we actually paid and tick off that we've got it. And then a massive one was doing wiring, so I just literally did this in PowerPoint, but basically a wiring diagram that shows everything, because it is a minefield trying to work out what to do, especially if you've never done it. So I've got a wiring diagram that sort of shows every different component, all the wire sizing, all that. Also have a plumbing diagram, which isn't yet finished, but that's going to be similar to sort of showing all the different components that we need. And then the next thing we've done is some layout planning. So we literally started this by putting some markers in the backyard with a tape measure, and we'll show you the layout that we've sort of taped in the back here.
Oh, that's right. And I was putting the sticks.
We put literally sticks in the yard, tape measure, worked out kind of what we wanted. But then progressed into doing that in Google SketchUp, which is a great free tool to...
It's a great free tool, don't get me wrong. He just got really frustrated because he's used to AutoCAD, and
it's different. The controls are different, so I found it frustrating. But I had the drawing, background. But it is easy, and I think we'll probably do a quick video on doing the layout and some of the things that I found handy, some of the commands and things that were frustrating to work out. So layout, you can do 2D sketches, you can do your cross sections. It's really easy to jump into doing that like in 3D once you've done your 2D layout. So that is really good just to working out your spatials as well. You can even do aesthetics and things like that in there, like the finishes you want.
Very cool.
And then I've also got a Word doc, which is my build run sheet. So that's sort of I guess the videos are going to follow that as well, but basically it's just headings with, we're doing flooring, this is the ply we're using, this is the screws we're using, these are the steps. So at a high level, any sort of notes that I've picked up from research is in there. So when we go to build, it's just like, all right, today we're doing this, and this is what we need.
Hopefully that'll help.
Hopefully. That's also still a work in progress, but I think things will probably move around where we think we're going to do things, but that's going to help out a lot. And then the final thing is the certification and trade. So as I mentioned, we're going to register this as a camper van. So in Australia, so we're based in Queensland. So in Queensland we follow, there's certain codes for modifying vehicles, and there's also some trades that need to be involved as well. So in Queensland we follow the light vehicle modification code, and specifically it is at, I guess currently, I don't know if it's going to change in the future, but it is code LH11, which if you find it, it looks like it was done by a primary school kid as an assignment. It's got like word art as the front cover and stuff.
That's the best part, the word art.
So I mean, I went through the chain of finding it like 3 times before I was like convinced that this was actually the right document, but it tells you everything that you need. So you need like a fixed cooker, you need a certain ratio of like I guess compliance seating with seat belts to your berths or like beds, storage, everything from putting like latches on your cabinets, fire extinguishers, all that is listed in there. And I also found a engineer locally, so my specialty is in traffic engineering, so not particularly relevant. So I found an engineer who is going to certify, or who builds and certifies vans, and we're going to use him to certify it. So I had 20-30 minute chat with him on the phone. He was really helpful And he told me a whole bunch of things to keep in mind. He told me like when he wants to see the van and what he can do. So things like weigh in and I guess just things to be mindful. So that was really good to, I guess, get that perspective before we started. Then I've also spoken to a gas fitter because we're going to go with gas. And I did and ah about whether we're going to put gas in or not, because originally I was. And then after speaking to the certifier, he said a lot of people are putting electric in, so then I looked more into that. But yeah, I guess I was more comfortable with gas in terms of heating water and cooking, particularly if there's some periods of rainy weather. So yeah,
especially with being in Queensland and family in northern New South Wales, just all of the rain and flooding that we've had.
Yeah, we literally had 6 months of rain.
And so, although I hope that that's not what we get again,
yeah,
we were just a little bit concerned, a little bit traumatised by all of the gloomy weather, that if we, you know, could only last 2-3 days on the solar, then what do we do to cook and have showers and things like that if we're away for extended periods. So
yeah, and where we are here, we're on our family or my family's property in New South Wales, and this is fully off grid here. So like I guess I've grown up with knowing the limitations of solar and like when you have those bad periods of weather, like what your limitations are.
A bit stressful as well, can be.
Yeah, trying to manage it and things like that. So that's why we've gone gas. So yeah, talking to the gas fitter was really good because, again, another really lovely bloke who was more than happy to spend time on the phone chatting to me. And then he actually came out and had a look at where I wanted to put everything, because there's certain requirements with where your gas box and venting goes, the size of vents that you need, you know, where your stove can go, like your cooktop, certain clearances from things like that. You need high and low ventilation. The gas box has got to be sealed. There's a whole bunch of requirements, and it was just really good to, I guess, run through that with him, so that I was comfortable that we were going to be able to get a van that was certifiable, because he actually told me some horror stories where people had put their gas box in too close to doors. They've cut the hole in the side of the van and gone to certify it, and he's basically like, I can't help you, you're going to have to find another use for that box and put another box in.
Yeah, I just, cutting into walls and whatnot is main. I'm not going to be doing it. However, I'm like, I don't want like cuts where we don't need to cut, so I'm glad that he was super helpful.
It was really good, and I highly recommend talking to your certifier, talking to, if you're going to put gas in, find someone who's experienced and can certify that and can give you some pointers as well. Then I also spoke to a mate who's a Sparky, and he, just because we're going to have an inverter in here and it's going to be hardwired in, so it won't just be a plug-in inverter, it will actually be wired in. We're going to have a short plug as well, so he just ran through some things like conduiting. Third time's a charm. Running the cables in conduit. Just change it up and that'll work. But yeah, running the cable in conduit, the cable sizing that we need, and some other things, I guess, how much we should allow in terms of time or cost, and other things that we'll probably need to allow for, like putting in circuit boards and like RCDs and things like that. So that was really good to talk to him as well, just to make sure I'm sort of across what we need to do and be aware.
It helps get things out of your brain as well, because there's been a few nights already where he's like woken up
like,
what are we doing? Is this the right like wiring? Is this the right spot to put this? And so just having someone to bounce those ideas off that can,
make sure
can
we're on
say
the right track.
Yeah, yes or no.
So yeah, I guess to summarise all of that, a lot of planning goes into it. I guess look into what vehicle you want. Obviously, you might not be wanting to put a shower and toilet.
Could go with a 3.7.
Van.
A medium wheelbase or a Renault long wheelbase will fit a bed and drawers and everything so comfortably. But yeah, I think if you're looking to put a shower and toilet in, you probably want to look at that over 4 meters internal load length. Yeah,
definitely. So yeah, that planning out, you know, even if it's not as detailed as we've gone, but planning out like what you're going to need gives you an idea of like budget and things like that. And we
can do a video on budget as well, and how much this will cost us, probably more towards the end when we know how much this is going to cost us, because we have an idea of what it might, but who knows.
Yeah, hopefully it sort of comes in somewhere what we were expecting.
Yeah. So I think that's about it, is it?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. So we'll start building now, I guess. Just be aware there's a lot that you probably need to think about and plan
before getting into it. See, and we're like yin and yang. I mean, he is the logical type that likes things to be planned out and likes to have lots of time to execute those plans. And me, I'm the opposite. So I like to have some plans in place, but lying to the people. I'm like, let's go. You know,
we're renovating our house, and you know, we're painting inside. And Brooke decided that we were going to fit new curtains, which is fair enough. And she's literally like, decided this. She's got the key. I'm not even joking. She's got the keys in her hand. She's like, let's go to Spotlight. And I'm like, do you know how many windows we have? Do you know how big they are? Do you even know what goes into like curtains and curtain rods and that? But she's like, no, I want new curtains. So
make it happen, you know? Just
so she's
move
like,
fast,
let's
make
get
it
this
happen.
done.
Yeah. See, which I think is a good compliment, because I think if Julius had the time, you know, you would probably extend it as much as you can to make sure everything's perfect. And
just keep planning.
Just keep planning. I'm
So
like,
it's
no,
good to have
let's just make it happen.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. Let's get started. So I think it's good having a bit of both brains.
Yeah.
The analytical side, the planner side, and the creative side. So
Yeah, I think it all
and the move
works
fast
well
side.
together. But yeah, all right.
Hopefully.
Let's get into building it.